We're good? All right. Well, it's 5:30. Let's call the meeting to order. This joint caucus of the Republican and Democratic caucus, joint meeting of the two caucuses. Um, Start with roll call. When I say your name, just signify that you're present. Kevin McCarthy,
Present.
Brad Lindmark,
Present.
Hoffman, Mark Earl,
Present.
Can't hear you, Paul.
Aaron Booker,
Here.
Keith McDonald,
Here.
John Butita,
Here.
Jim Webster,
Here.
Dean Crosby,
Here.
Jazz Billich,
Here.
Angie Gorel,
Present.
Fred Westcott,
Here.
Steve Schultz,
Here.
Jaime Salgado,
Present.
Dorothy Red,
Present.
Dave Tassoni,
Present.
Angela Fellers.
Present.
Did I miss anybody?
Tim Neighbors.
Tim,
You missed me too, Paul. Joe.
Okay. I said Joe, you didn't answer.
Oh, I was ignoring you, I guess.
And we're joined today too by Chairman Joe Shirelli. There's no one from the public here to address us, correct? Okay. With that, Mr. Schultz, you've got the invocation on Thursday. I guess we go right into the agenda. First item before the committee reports is appointment of Tom Del Santo for the Greater Rockford Airport Authority. I believe with the change in our rules that we just made, these appointments lay over now for 30 days. Would anyone like to discuss this, or do we want to plan for any type of, I don't know, evaluation of the candidates? I think last time when this all went on, we talked about possibly doing a more extensive review of appointments to boards. Does anyone have any opinions on that? No? Okay.
I would like to say something.
Mr. Arena, this is Angela Fellers.
Okay. Angela, go ahead, and then Dorothy.
Okay. I have a question in general. Is Mr. Del Santo currently sitting on the board while we await the reappointment process?
Yes.
Okay, so we could make changes to how we evaluate, but he would be able to continue doing the duties that he's doing right now while we do that, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. And let the record show that Mr. Kelly has joined the meeting. Ms. Red, go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. It seems as if I saw some notes that the Diversity Council was supposed to be involved in the selection, but at this point, we're not quite ready for that. So I just wanted to make mention so you'd have it in the records.
Okay. How would, or where did you see that noted, or how is that?
It was in some information that I have. Now,
Okay.
one other question. Is this appointment being made by the chairman, Shirelli, or are you pulling this off the table?
No, this is those, all those appointments that were tabled have now died.
Good,
based on-
okay, good,
So
Thank
this is
you.
all fresh. This is a new appointment by Chairman Shirelli.
great.
And as far as the Diversity Council's involvement, are you saying it's in our rules that we just adopted, or, because I don't recall that, so we should get.
No, I saw in some notes that that was what's supposed to happen, but I will have to share that with you. And if that's the case, we're not ready for that yet.
Okay, but we should get clarity on that, because moving forward, if there's going to be, if that's part of the process, we need to know what that is.
Okay, I will gather what I have and share it with you.
Okay. Thank you. Mr. Butita?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So I'm going to be in favor of the appointment of Mr. Del Santo. I've known him since high school, just as a disclaimer. But to your point, Paul, about vetting these appointments further, I think that's not a bad idea. And possibly one way of doing that is assign these appointments to a committee to review them. In this particular case, I think you could consider the Rockford Airport part of the economic development of our area. Maybe the Economic Development Committee could at least look into it a little deeper and report back to the board with a recommendation. But that would be my thought. I'm in favor of the appointment overall, though.
Okay. We should
Paul,
just that idea. Go ahead, Ms. Gorel.
Paul, do we not already have his resume on file?
I believe it was emailed to us today.
Oh, today it was?
I
Okay,
saw an email come through today with his resume.
okay, thank you.
And
Paul, if I could speak for a moment.
sure, go
This is
ahead.
Angela Fellers.
Yep.
I like Mr. Batita, I'm strongly in support of Mr. Del Santo's appointment or reappointment to the airport board. I strongly embrace diversity on all of our boards. I don't think that's a secret to anyone. But Mr. Del Santo has an extraordinary amount of knowledge and experience in intergovernmental agreements and responsible bidding ordinances and project labor agreements. And he has a demeanor that fits well with the board, that balances well with the board. And our airport being our number one economic generator, it's really important that board be fully staffed. I know that there is another seat that's coming up for appointment with the city. And if we as a board feel very strongly that there should be someone who is appointed to the board that isn't Tommy Del Santo, I think that we should use our collective power to lobby Mayor Tom McNamara and let him know our feelings on that. But Mr. Del Santo not living in the city would be our appointment, and I'm strongly in favor.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Fellers. Mr. Hoffman.
Thanks, Chairman. I have to go along. I was a big supporter of Tom Del Santo when we made the original picks, and I felt we were let down at that time by the former chairman. I'm going to stick with that pick. I think everybody I talked to at the airport supports him very strongly. All the people that that know him well support him very strongly. So I'm throwing my full support behind Mr. Del Santo for the airport board.
All right, thank you, Mr. Hoffman. I got Mr. Billich next, and then Mr. Webster.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to reiterate, I absolutely support Tommy Del Santo. As far as the vetting goes, if that process is something that we want to do through certain committees, just keep us informed on economic development, we would gladly do that. However, I wanted to add in just I think a little bit of a clarification just on the discussion on diversity. I think the reason why it was brought up before was there was the guys that with the picks that Mr. Haney had chosen, former Chairman Haney had chosen was actually with the guys that it was through diversity reasons. And then that was found out to not be necessarily the case. However, I do remember it being brought up in that discussion in that kind of way back then. But that's just as a point of clarification on that one. However, I do support Mr. Del Santo and I'll keep it short. As Angela said, he's got a lot of experience with that seat. So.
Thank you, Mr. Billich. Mr. Webster?
Thank you. I too have known Tommy for quite a few years. And yes, he's his actions have been woven in and out of our government actions for a number of years as well. I think a lot of us know him already. I'm comfortable with the man. I was comfortable with him years ago. I still am. Anyways, as far as this vetting goes there, taxpayers hired us to make a decision for them. And so if we want to do this through a committee, that's fine, that's great. That's our job. I don't think that we need to go out and reach out to the chamber or whatever, or any other things like that. I think we just need to do our job. And if you want to take 30 days to do it, that's one thing. I don't care. But I do think that's something internal that we as a board should be doing. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Webster. And I think in this circumstance, he's already been on the board and he's familiar to most of us. So in this case, maybe we don't have to, it really isn't necessary to look into it as close as a appointment or maybe a board that we're unfamiliar with. But I still think we need to figure out a way to be consistent with all of these appointments. Maybe since there's a 30-day turnaround, we'll have the opportunity to have another caucus before it comes up for the board vote. So we could invite candidates to attend a caucus so people can ask them questions there, or we could use committees. I don't know, if it's the airport board, that makes sense for economic development. If it's a different board, I don't know, fire protection or I don't know, sewer district. I mean, we've seen all kinds of them come through. I don't know how we'll decide, if we go case by case on which committee it should go to. I think it's something though that we need to think about, and we need to come up with a consistent way that we handle it. Ms. Crosby.
I would recommend that we look at the way the city council reviews appointments and maybe use that template as a guide. We don't have to adopt it, but we can certainly, they have the same issues that we do. And I would be interested in to see how their vetting process works.
Thank you, Ms. Crosby. Chairman
Thank
Shirelli,
you.
how does the city council review appointments?
Basically, the mayor will contact the committee chairs that the appointment is related to initially and have that conversation. And just to give an example, we got 3 reappointments coming on the Zoning Board of Appeals. So my first initial call to be to Mr. Webster to get his recommendation, and I will heavily weigh on that recommendation. If he gives me the pros or the cons, that's how we operated on the city council level. And I need to be able to be fully transparent with these appointments, bringing forward to the caucus chairs and then to the committee chairs if that board is directly related to it. So I am open to any and all ideas on this. I look at this county board as a team, and that's why we're having these discussions, but I'm fully transparent on this. I will definitely talk to the committee chairs and the caucus chairs. And I'm glad that 30-day layover is in place because that's identical to the way the city handles them. Unless there's a need for a suspension, if there's a member resigns or a death and they can't get a caucus or a quorum for a meeting, that something definitely needs to happen quickly. Then, we'll all be aware of that. But if there's a ability to have a quorum and it's just a matter of going through the normal process, that's how we should stick. Such as this. I mean, Tommy Del Santo is still on the Airport Authority Board. He's still serving. So unless there was an immediate need for a suspension, I would not ask for that unless there's an immediate need. So I want everybody to be comfortable with these appointments. I think Dorothy Red has, as far as the Diversity Council, absolutely. I need everybody's involvement in this. These applicants need to know that they have value on these boards and they want to be able to serve on, bring value to that board. So just as much as they want to serve, we want to be able to serve our constituents in the best way to get the best applicants. So I am open to any and all ideas.
Okay. Thank you, Chairman Shirley. The other thing too is we don't have to have a formal meeting or, have them come in any type of formal setting. We can also do that. We have a resume for these folks that'll come forward. Each of us individually can reach out to them, make contact, ask questions, speak with one another, and network that way about it. I think that might work just as well. Some of them are going to draw more attention than others.
Mr. Chairman?
Chairman Shirelli? Oh, no, I'm sorry. Dorothy
No.
Red, go ahead, and then Then I'll go back.
Thank you. I just wanted to say that I am, because of the controversy from the airport board that I was involved in, I'd like to say that I am in favor of Mr. Del Santo continuing to serve on the board. So I want everyone to be aware of that.
Thank you, Ms. Red. Chairman Shirelli?
Yeah, so back to Ms. Crosby's question. So after the mayor brings forward an appointment, there is no process other than conversations. The applicant does not go in front of a committee, a formal committee. There is discussion at caucus, but it's all done without the formal committee taking a vote or even a discussion about it. But I really like this idea of either the joint caucus or bringing the names to, the respective caucuses when they meet. But the work behind the scenes is going to be talking to the committee chairs, the caucus chairs, and then the individual members as a whole. And, so I think that's a good system you have in place.
Thank you. Okay, is there any further discussion on the appointment of Tom Del Santo? Seeing none, we'll move on to the standing committee reports. Finance, Mr. Salgado?
Yeah, I don't believe there's anything on the agenda for this coming week, so just no report from our report.
Okay. Thank you. Zoning, Mr. Webster?
Yeah, thank you. We have nothing coming up at this meeting either.
Thank you. Economic Development, Mr. Billich?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. We have no report for this meeting as well.
Okay, thank you. Operations, Mr. McDonald, anything that you'd like to add? I see there's no items on here.
There are no items, Mr. Chairman. I thank you for the opportunity. I did get a hold of Mr. Thompson, working on getting us a status of the public safety building. We're hoping to have that for the next operations meeting.
Great. Thank you very much for that. Public Works, Mr. Tassoni.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We're going to have one item here, 21-001. It's a resolution supporting the construction of a multi-use bicycle and pedestrian path on East Riverside Boulevard or in Perryville there, going over the I-39/90 there. And like I said, this is just for investigative purposes to get the ball rolling and doing some legwork with our legislators and seeing where we can find some money. And like I said, it was requested by a couple of board members from out in their area of that district. And I thought it was a good thing as well. Anybody who traverses that area knows it's probably next to impossible to get over that bridge without taking your life in your hands. So that's the only item we'll have.
Thank you, Mr. Tassoni. On this item, I'd just like to say it was brought forward by Mr. Butita and myself. He had brought it to my attention. And I do think it's a good idea long-term, at least to look into it. Mr. Schultz had talked to me when it first came out about how we maintain these paths once we build them. And I believe I talked to Mr. Butita about it, but I don't think we really discussed it in committee. So, Mr. Tassoni, do you know, do we have money set aside for maintenance of bike paths? Or
I don't, I'm not positive on this, but I believe in some instances when, say, the county's installing a bike path, it's then turned over to the jurisdiction that it lies in. Like maybe it's a village or a park district or something like that. Couldn't tell you about Perryville specifically. That's a pretty big long one there. No, that'd probably be best answered by Mr. Molina, and I'm sure he'll be on board here a Thursday night, so he could give us some detail on that.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Butita?
Okay, thanks, Mr. Chairman. So I do actually know the answer to that question because Perryville path runs the length of my district from Riverside down to Harrison. So a good chunk of it is in my district, and the county does maintain that. I've had many conversations with Joe Vanderwerth and now with Carlos. It's a path that I use almost daily because I live close by it. And so I'm aware of whenever there's something wrong, I always contact those guys and they take care of it, but the county does maintain that path. And I would just add that, and we can have this conversation at board also when Carlos is there, but the scope of this project originally was just to get a walkway across the toll road. But there's a network of paths on the east side of Riverside, the toll road. So connecting it with Perryville path makes a lot of sense. So this is a resolution just to, as Mr. Tassoni said, get the process kickstarted, find out what kind of money is actually involved in it. It doesn't commit us to any monies other than the time that our engineering department needs to come up with some cost numbers. So obviously we'll be talking about this in the future, but this is just a resolution to get the ball rolling. Thank you.
Maybe we can also talk to Mr. Molina about, as we look into funding, to make sure we keep in mind whatever might be necessary for maintenance also, and identify how that'll be handled over time. That just might be the prudent thing to do, I think. Is there anybody else that has any question, or I don't know, Mr. Schultz, did that adequately address your concern at this point in time? I realize we still have answers to get.
Yeah, thank you for raising the issue.
You're welcome. Okay. Is there any further discussion on this matter? If none, we'll move on. Public Safety and Judiciary Committee. Mr. Girl.
Thank you, Chairman. Public Safety and Judiciary has two items. First is a resolution amending the county, or authorizing the county board chairman to amend contracts for healthcare services for inmates of the Winnebago County Jail and detainees of the Juvenile Detention Center. This is a one-year contract with U of I Medical. There is an increase in this versus last year, but with COVID and everything related to healthcare, the price increase seemed inevitable. So it is a one-year contract. It is not budgeted, but we're working along with purchasing and the sheriff's department to try to see if we can find some revenue to pick this up. So that's where we're at right now. I know Ms. Johns is working on this diligently, but there's an increase. We kind of figured this may be the after effect of COVID related to healthcare and providing those services at a contracted cost. So that's where we're at on that one.
And just so that everyone knows the full impact, it was a $250,000 increase?
250,000, yes.
So this, I listened in on the meeting that night. This kind of came up abruptly and unexpectedly, and I think there was not an option for us to do anything about it with the time given. If I remember correctly, we weren't notified until December of the increase. Is that right, Mr. Girl?
I believe so. When this contract initially was going to end, I believe in February, but we got that pushed back a little bit further. So we did have just a little bit of time, but looking at all our other avenues, they were even more pricey. So we're going to stick with U of I Medical for now, just to see if we can get through this and get a better contract next year. And maybe even sooner, but it is an increase. There really wasn't much time to, delve into RFPs and RFQs. So we will be working along with purchasing in the sheriff's office to see if we can find better services, but we are stuck because our inmates and then our juveniles that are incarcerated do need medical care. So it's something that we have to have.
And one thing I want to share with everyone that I kind of picked up from the meeting was a comment that U of I ended up having to reimburse us money because the population in the jail was low in the springtime, and I assume it was when they were trying to reduce the population because of COVID. And if that's the case, that the population was reduced, and as far as I know, there was no real impact on the community because of it. That could be one thing that we need to look at moving forward. Are we, that we're only holding people that we absolutely have to hold for reasons like this, because $250,000 unexpected expense is quite a bit of money.
Yeah, and if you look at the contract, it's just under $3 million for 1 year. So it is something that we have to take in totality, because $3 million for healthcare is a lot of money. We understand that, but is that enough money for the number of people that we take care of? So, you know, that is definitely going to be one thing that we'll be working along with purchasing, our administrators and our sheriff's office to answer those questions.
Mr. Grohl.
And then Mr. McDonald, Mr. Booker, then Mr. Kelly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I think several hands popped up for the same thing I'm getting ready to mention, but with the House or the Springfield passing to get rid of the cash bond, I'd be very curious, Mr. Grohl, if you can get with the Sheriff's Department and find out what effects they expect that to have on our daily population. And that could significantly impact our need for medical.
Indeed. Yep. Will do.
Yes.
Mr. Kelly, are you next?
Same question.
Right. But now that cash bond thing doesn't go into effect for 2 years, so.
Correct.
It's Mr. Arena. This is Angela Fellers. It's my understanding that it'll start going into effect in stages. And so I don't know that it would be something that would impact this year's budget, but it would next year's. So I agree with Mr. McDonald that we should reach out about that. My other question was, who was responsible for notifying us? You said that we weren't notified until December. Is that just something that we missed in the turnover of the administration, or is there a procedure for that kind of thing?
It was my understanding that the U of I notified us. They just said, we can't do this anymore for the money that, you know, of the previous contract, and this will be the new amount. There wasn't a lot of opportunity to negotiate.
Okay, is it too late to add it into the new contract that we would be notified of any expected changes in the policy rates with a certain number of months of the end of the next contract?
Mr. Girl, do you know the answer to that question?
I do not know the answer to that, but I can follow up with you, Ms. Fellers, on that. I'm not sure if this contract is already past that negotiating stage or if there's any room for negotiating in this contract. But any new contract that would come, I would definitely express the same concerns that we would be notified, whether it's 60 days or 90 days before the end of the contract, if an increase was going to occur. I think that's an easy way to add that language in there.
I agree. Thank you.
On any contract, yeah, just not this one.
I have Mr. Booker next, and then Mr. McCarthy.
Thank you, Chairman. I just want everybody to keep in mind that we continue to see an increase in federal inmates for additional revenue, and that increases every month. And I believe for the month of December, we took in over $400,000 just for the month of December. So now granted that is to go to care of the federal inmates, but there is some additional revenue that is built into that. So I don't know if that can help out or not. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Booker. That's an excellent point, and I'm sure it does, because this medical care is for all the inmates, federal or non-federal.
Yeah, I believe, if I recall, isn't it a 30 or 60 days once we, let's say, Mr. Girl, that we renew with them, that we do have an out for 30 or 60 days if something were to come better, a better deal forward?
Absolutely. We have a 90-day out on this contract.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions on that? So the Public Safety Committee would unanimously, we voted for this, and we would express other board members vote for this just to get us some level of healthcare moving forward, and we can work on any future contracts here soon. So with no other questions on that, I'll move on to our next one. And this is just an annual maintenance agreement for X-ray scanners. The price did not change. We pay $30,800 per year for maintenance of the X-ray scanners. So that price did remain the same. And that was voted on unanimously by the committee. And that is all we have, Mr. Chairman.
I have a statement, please.
Go ahead, Dorothy.
Thank you, Chairman. Each of you should have received an email from Representative Maurice West. And on Thursday night, there is a forum on the bill that was passed. There's a link, I believe. You have to go to his site and register. So some of you might be interested in that. And also, I was looking back at the at a flyer that was issued in 2002, where public safety was asking the people of the community to vote for the 1% tax. And I can email each of you a copy of that if you'd like. It was saying that I believe 26% of those funds should be used to prevent crime. And I don't know if it's being used that way, but we need to take a look at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Red. I don't think I got an email from Representative West. When did that get sent out? Today?
No, it was last week. I tell you what, I can forward it to you.
All right. Yeah, maybe it's buried in my email, but yeah, please forward it again.
Okay. Thank you.
Oh,
Yes.
many times, these are on the same night we have our county board meeting. And I'm sure they'll probably, we can go back and look at YouTube for it, but many times we're unable to attend many of these meetings because we have county board meeting that night or we have something else.
Okay.
So I wish they could work on that. No, I saw the flyer too, but
I think it starts at 6:30
Yes.
on Thursday, but we don't have a lot on the agenda for this week, so we might be able to get on to this community forum.
That's true.
isn't that basically the for what they just passed Springfield?
Yes.
Yeah, but people have questions, you might want answers, and you don't know
All right.
unless you ask.
Especially on the mandate.
Yes.
Mr. Girl?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I can add, I'm working with our administration and our elected officials to try to arrange a town hall meeting, either through my committee, our committee, public safety, or through the board, to where you can actually have a town hall meeting, ask questions, answer questions about the crime bill. So I'm working on that. Hopefully that can coincide with a board meeting or a special meeting, just so that we don't make our board meeting too long. But I'm working on that to try to set that up so board members and our staff can ask questions and get those questions answered by the folks that put the bill together. So that way there's no misnomers. We get all the facts out. So I'm working on that. And I'm also working with our staff to bring in our crime commission to give an update and a report to the board, and also to be available to ask questions from the board. So those are a couple of things that we're working on right now through public safety.
Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, this is Jaime.
Go ahead, Mr. Pagano.
Yeah, a suggestion to Mr. Girl. Also, I don't know if, I think Loyola University came out with their report for the crime statistics. I know that 2020 was not part of it, and but there's been discussion about that. I think it's good. I know we had a meeting when they first came out and kind of walked us through the different perspectives on the crime, burglary, and obviously the biggest thing is the unreported crime stats of domestic violence, sexual assault. So I was just wondering if maybe your committee could dissect that data and kind of, work with the sheriff department to address some of those key areas or initiatives that can take place to address some of those crime stats that are out there, and kind of realign and look at what direction the sheriff's department can take and position in that. So just something with that, and same with the crime bill, the downstate that was just passed. It'd be great to kind of align those things, and it would be a great opportunity for you guys to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Salgado. Yeah, if I may, Mr. Chairman, but yes, that is in the works already. We're trying to align another town hall meeting just with all the players of public safety, just so we can go through this, the crime report, dissect it, see what's working, see what's not, and actually see what we can do as a government body to help our policing around the county, and where we need to improve. Maybe there's some places that we're spending too much time on or not enough time. So that will be happening soon enough. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, any other conversation on that point? No. Mr. McDonald.
Mine's not on that point. I can wait till the end of the meeting.
I think we're done with public safety, aren't we, Mr. Grohl? Okay, no, go ahead, McDonald.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say to those who missed the parliamentarian meeting a couple Saturdays ago, you missed really great training. I think it is on YouTube. I think we got sent a link to it, but I learned quite a bit. And if you have the opportunity, log in and watch that parliamentarian class that we had. It was really good.
Thank you, Mr. McDonald. And there was a study guide that we got. If anyone didn't get it or need one, we could get more. Anyway, it's they're there for everyone to have for reference. Mr. Hoffman?
Thank you, Chairman. Paul, did you leave some of those downtown, or I haven't been back down there since then? Is there some in our mailbox?
I just brought a box to the office. I'm not sure. Mr. Shirelli, do you know if there's still some there?
Yes, there are still some in the office.
All right, I'll stop down and get one. Thanks.
Again, thank you, Paul, for doing that. There's been changes, and it's nice to have a whole new booklet on it and to go over the new changes that have been happening with that procedure. So I want to thank you. I was thinking, why am I going to sit through another one of these things? Well, it was very well worth it, and I'm glad I did. Thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, and I'm glad everyone got, I thought it was a good meeting. It was very active. Everyone had a lot of good questions, so I'm glad it worked out. The next thing I just want to touch on again to follow up on a topic from the last caucus. Mr. Westcott had asked that we talk about meeting again in person. I've talked to some board members. Some are in favor of it, some are concerned about it. My opinion is that we should allow people who want to stay with the Zoom meetings to do that until we get the vaccinated, and then people who want to meet at the county to see if we could go back to having people there on the Zoom meeting. But I just wanted to throw that out there and see if anyone else had an opinion about that they'd like to express at this time.
Personally, I prefer to keep it the way it is right now until more of this breaks.
Thank you, Mr. Hoffman.
Thank you, Jim. I'm going to say the same thing I said last time. It's not up to us to make that decision. It's up to the health department to make that decision.
Right, well, they changed the, like we shifted into a different level of restriction now, so.
But does that change what we're doing? I have not seen that change. So does the decision they upgraded, yes, it's in restaurants and gambling places, whatever, but do they talk about meetings?
I thought 25 people could meet. Mr. Chairman Shirelli.
Yeah, thank you for that. Yeah, we talked to Dr. Martell this morning specifically about the change that was coming a little later this morning from the governor. moving to phase 4, and that does increase the amount of people that could go to a meeting. So we are working with Dr. Martell. She's okay with us going back into session live as long as mitigation efforts or the separation is there, the masking, not using the same computer. So we are working on that. So it looks like Dr. Martell is moving in that direction because of the phase 4 that was just announced early this morning. So we will be bringing that forward through Pat Thompson and working out the details with Dr. Martell. But the important thing is we want to make sure that the people who don't feel comfortable attending or have a high risk, that Zoom is available for them. So that's how we're going to incorporate that. So that'll be coming out more in the near future.
Okay.
I have a follow-up, Paul. I'm sorry.
Mr. Hoffman and then Mr. Booker.
Joe, on that, I'm okay with all the things you said as long as people are doing what they're supposed to do. I go in stores, I go in restaurants, and everybody say, you know, they're supposed to be wearing a mask, or in a lot of places, and they're not wearing the mask or they're not wearing it properly. Are we going to enforce those rules, or just say we change them, but we don't enforce them? I want to be sure that we're enforcing them, not just saying, yeah, we can do it, but we need to enforce the rules.
Well, that's the part of the discussion today, Joe, because as leaders, we want to be able to show the public that we're following the mitigation efforts while we're in session. So yes, we're still in talks with Dr. Martell and how we can make this happen. So we want everybody to be comfortable with it. If you don't feel comfortable coming in when we're allowed to, we have the Zoom available. And when we are, the people who are live in session, they need to follow the mitigation rules, you know, for separation. And, you know, when you're speaking, you know, take your mask down. When you're not speaking, you keep your mask up. So we're working through all that.
Okay, I appreciate that. And if we're doing that, then I'm all for it.
Mr. Booker.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I just wanted to reiterate also that I'm all for leaving it up to the individual to attend a meeting. And I'm not comfortable with anyone infringing on my decision on where to go and what to do as far as that goes. But yeah, I can follow rules, but I'm not going to have anyone infringe on my personal freedom. Thank you.
Mr. Hoffman.
I have a problem with that. I would like Mr. Booker to explain what exactly does that mean? Does that mean if you go to a meeting, you will not wear a mask because you don't believe in it? What does that mean?
No, I said that I will follow the rules, just like when I go to Walmart, Kohl's, Home Depot, they're required to wear a mask when you walk in. So yeah, I will honor and respect the property owner's request to wear a mask. So yeah, I had already mentioned before you asked about it, but I follow the rules.
I was a little concerned though, because you said that and then you made a follow-up to make it sound like you were going to do what you wanted to because nobody could tell you what to do. That's what it sounded like to me.
Well, I think he
no, just that I prefer to attend in person as there just isn't enough evidence to restrict us from you know, we've got to set the example. If we're opening schools and you can go into a restaurant and take off a mask as soon as you sit at a table, there just isn't enough hard evidence for me. So I can respect rules that are set by at any property.
I'm going to take that you're going to follow the rules. You just don't like doing it. Is that okay? All right.
Okay. Well, thank you. Moving on then, the last item I think we have tonight is Chairman Shirelli would like our input on establishing our legislative agenda. So I'll turn it over to Chairman Shirelli.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'm requesting from every member, if you have any suggestions or ideas to bring forward, so we can set our legislative agenda so we can start working with the senators and our state reps and have a plan in place here so we can work diligently on those agenda items. So if you can send to my office or send to me personally any ideas that you want the legislators to help work on for us, any bills, or any ideas, please bring them forward. This is going to be fully inclusive with all of you. And then we will bring it to the full board for adoption. There's, a cookie cutter template that we could use for all different types of agenda items. But if you have something specifically that you want to focus on, please bring it forward so we can get that included in the agenda to get to these legislators, because that's very important for us. So that's why I'm doing that this way. And I feel it's prudent to do that for each one of you, because you might have a different issues going on in your respective districts that you need attention. So this would be the time to, at least set the agenda moving forward. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, may I speak?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Schultz.
Thank you. The first thought that comes to mind, Mr. Chairman, is the idea of a cumulative list of unfunded mandates and whether one of those lists has been maintained over the years. I do think as a starting point, the ability to undo some of that damage that's already been done and already has put us on our heels financially and otherwise would be a great place to start.
Thank you.
And then from my perspective, I think I shared this with Chairman Shirelli. I think I had, but for the rest of the board's benefit, some months back, Ms. Red, myself, and Chairman Haney at the time, and one of her constituents met about property in her ward that's in unincorporated Winnebago County that was in neglected property, possibly unwanted, I don't know. But at the time, I believe I had a conversation with Mr. Kurlinkus about our ability to intervene, and he said it was, he thought it was limited by state law about us mitigating nuisances. So what I would like us to do is to investigate that and then use examples that we saw from Ms. Red's ward, or I'm sorry, district, and look at how we can address those property conditions. That would be my ask.
Thank you, Chairman. May I speak, please?
Yes, please go ahead, Ms. Red.
I have been on the board for a number of years, and I'm always asking, for help in my district. My district needs funding for banks and grocery stores. And I think at the last workshop that we had with the former chairman, he promised that things would change, but nothing has changed. What I would like to see happen, especially with our new chairman and everyone else on the board, to take a look at District 18, because this is a very, very needed and underserved district by the county. Let's see what we can do to help District 18 out. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Red. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add for this evening on this subject? Okay, seeing none. Are there any other matters to come before this meeting tonight?
I have something, Chairman, if I may.
Yep, go ahead, Mr. Neighbors.
I got a question for Chairman Shirelli. I spoke last time about having the mental health board come and present. I didn't get a chance to speak to you to put it on the agenda for this week. I was wondering if it was possible that we could have them do a presentation this week.
So the question is, you would like to have the presentation from a mental health representative on the mental health board?
Yes.
Present this coming Thursday?
Yes.
Okay, let me find out if where we could add that, and if we can get, so who would you like to have to speak to the county board?
Jason Holcomb or Mary Ann Abadi. I think they both will speak.
Okay, I'll get right on that tomorrow morning.
Okay.
If not, can we do it the following, the next meeting?
For sure. For sure. If they're not capable this Thursday, for sure, next 2 weeks.
All right.
Yeah, we'll get back to you for sure though, Mr. Neighbors.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chairman Shirley, did you have another?
Yeah,
Point.
just quickly, late last week, we announced that $8.3 million is coming to this county for the emergency rental assistance grant. It's big news for our county, for the landlords and the tenants, and that's specifically for Winnebago County residents. So, and I want to thank Paul Arena for his help tying the loose ends together on this with Alan Zeiss from the Housing Authority and partnering with the City of Human Services Department. So good work. This is a big deal for our county and a good relief for the tenants and landlords. Second, I wanted to ask Mr. Arena, late this afternoon, I received an email from Eric Setter, our agent for the trustee program. He sent me an email that the city of Rockford has objected to one buyer for the trustee sale. And I need some guidance on what to do with that, because I believe it has to come to the county board to review that case for that buyer. And then we make a decision as far as the county board according to the IGA. So if you can give me some guidance on what you think I should do with this. I forward that email to you, Mr. Arena. I want we bring forward the proper channels here.
I think when we first passed it, we talked about having like an open forum where, the situation could be laid out, which is what we could do now. But I think what we really should do is follow the model that they have in Michigan. It's been up there for 20 years. I talked to people there when we first did the trustee program. They just set standards. If the buyer has outstanding code enforcement issues or it has unpaid property taxes in the county, they're ineligible, and they just whatever criteria we put together, it's just clear. Everyone understands what it is. You're either qualified or you're not. That's the least messy. I did speak with the Illinois Human Rights Department about our exposure for a fair housing complaint if we don't have defined criteria, and they agreed that we do have exposure. So that would be my recommendation. Shirley, did they give you any reason why they were rejecting this buyer?
Yeah, they put it in the email I just sent to you. And then I want you to review it. And the question I have is, what is the appropriate process to get it to the county board? Because apparently in the IGA, the county board has to review this and make a decision. If they reject the city's claim that not to sell to that buyer, then it goes to that buyer. If you approve the objection, then the agent sells it to the second highest bidder. So since I'm not familiar with the process and I wasn't sure if you have done this before on the county board, there's an objection.
No, what happened last time is they objected to buyers, and the prior chairman rejected the sales, but they didn't sell it to someone. They used that as a workaround because the IGA says that if we're going to sell it to the next highest bidder, it has to come to the board, which was problematic in itself. So, because we do want to get rid of the properties, I think what we need to do is I'll look at that. We need to establish a policy for the board on how to do it, which should have been done already, but hasn't been.
Well, good. That's what I'm after here. Please give me some direction on this.
Okay, we will. Ms. Crosby, you had a comment?
Yeah, Paul, can you send out to us the Michigan program so we can look at their criteria?
Yes, I'll find it again. It's been a while, but I can find it again. And
And the reason I ask that, the Human Rights Division wants to make sure everyone gets equal treatment. That's their only concern.
Right.
So unless we have a criteria out there, we're liable. So if we could look at their list, that would really be helpful to help us form ours.
I will get that.
Can I ask Jean a question, please?
Go ahead.
Jean?
Sure. Yeah.
Should we also be looking into the state of Illinois and to make sure that we don't get in trouble that way also? Because one's Michigan, one's Illinois, and sometimes the rules and regulations are a little bit different. And since you've been so involved with the state of Illinois with the realtors and the license law, is there any way you can have someone that you can contact? The other thing is, do we not, or do you feel that our legal should also give us a withdrawal contract for that buyer we refuse? That way that buyer can sign that withdrawal, and so we know that we're free and clear on that part if our legal does that.
Yeah, so you're really looking for, you're absolutely right, Angie, excellent point. We really do need to check with the state of Illinois, excellent point. And we really need, what you're looking for is, I think, some kind of hold harmless. So once we move on to that second buyer, that our skirts are clean.
Yes.
Okay. So I'm sure legal can help us with that. They're good at it.
Okay. Thank you.
That's down the road. That's down the road. Let's get the criteria, and then we'll worry about, having folks sign off so that we can move on. And we'll have the problem if I was the first buyer and we're rejecting them, I'm not signing anything. You know what I'm saying? We can't force them to do it. So I don't know if it has any merit. So anyway, we're a ways away from that. Let's get the criteria and put that in place and take it from there.
Thank you, Ms. Crosby.
Thank you.
Is there any further business for this evening? Mr. Hoffman.
Yes, this one last question, and I promise I'll get off it. Can you send us the rules that Dr. Martell is setting for the meetings? What phase we're in? And what
I don't think they're defined.
requirements are going to be as far as distancing, masks, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, Joe, we just started talking about this morning when the governor came out with phase 4. So everybody will be fully aware of the rules when they're being put together, for sure.
Thank you.
You also have to remember, if we don't follow those rules and all of a sudden our numbers start going back up, we're right back to where we are now. That's not in stone, because every day is a new day with this virus, and with the other one coming in behind it. We need to be prepared that we can come downtown and have our meetings, but next week we might not have to and go back on Zoom. So we have to be flexible in our thinking about this also. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Carl. Okay. Are there any other comments or?
Move to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
By Mr. Zotto, second by Mr. Webster. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye.